Good afternoon to all the participants. It is my honor to introduce this session's resource person, Dr. Sanjay Kumar. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Panda is working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at NIT Warangal, Telangana, India. He worked as an assistant professor and head of the department, Computer Science and Engineering at IEEE, DM, Triple ITDM, Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh, India, and also worked as an assistant professor in the Department of Information Technology at VSSUT, Burla, Odisha, India. He received PhD degree from IIT, Dhanbad, Jharkhand, India, MTech degree from National Institute of Technology, NIT Roorkela, and BTech degree from VSSUT, Odisha, in computer science and engineering. He received 19 plus awards from IEEE, IEI, ISTE, CSI, and others, which includes 2 silver medal awards for the best graduate and best postgraduate in
My voice is audible. Can anybody respond?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir, we hear you.
Yes, sir, it is audible.
Okay, let us start. Maybe there is some problem from Cedar side. Okay. I request organizer to kindly give me permission to share my screen. I request the organizer to please allow me to share my screen. I request the organizer to please allow me to share my screen. My voice is audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
So, yes, okay, thank you very much. Please allow me to share my screen. Whoever
Yes,
is
sir, yes, sir.
handling this
We are
session.
doing that.
Yeah. It's coming. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sorry for
Okay,
the
now my
inconvenience. Now
screen
I
is
made you
visible.
presented, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I hope my screen is now visible.
Sir, you can present now.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Yes. I can minimize the screens. Screen My screen is visible, right? And whatever, are you able to see? Can anybody respond?
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, okay. Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to session 3 of this AICT Atal FDP. And first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Sridhar sir, Associate Professor in the Department of CSE, G. Pullareddy Engineering College, and Dr. N. Vishwanathan sir, Head of the Department, Computer Science Engineering, G. Pullareddy Engineering College, to invite me to give 2 talks in this FDP. One, in the first talk, today's talk, I will talking about problem formulation, and tomorrow's talk I am going to cover about knowledge representation. But prior to problem formations, I have added 2 new terms. One is agent and environment, which is very much essential for formulating any kind of problem that is related to artificial intelligence. So this is the agenda of today's talk. The topics which we are going to discuss, we have to see what is an agent, what are the different types of agent. Then I will tell you about the environment. We will see in environment part different properties of the environment, how a agent is working in a particular environment, and whether the environment is static or it is dynamic, and what kind of operations you can apply into a particular environment. So these 2 parts we will see based upon the these 2 fundamental knowledge, agent and environment. I'll tell you couple of problems, and we'll see how to formulate a particular problem, how to propose a solution to a particular problem, right? So these 3 things you can expect from this 90 minutes talk. So let us start with the first one, that is agent and its environment. So here you can see a agent is anything that can be viewed as perceiving its environment. For example, we are traveling from, let's say, one place to another place. So whenever we are traveling, we are perceiving our environment. Let us, we are walking from one place to another place, or we are traveling through a vehicle. So our action is depends upon what we are perceiving from a particular environment, right? For example, one person is crossing the road and you are driving a car. So your operation on car, whether to move left or move right or to initiate the braking, depends upon the what are the other agents that are available in the environment. So here you can see in this diagram, here this is an agent, right? An agent is perceiving a particular environment. The environment is limited to a particular room. The environment may be extended to a particular country. The environment may be all over the world, right? The whatever you are initiating in a particular environment, or what is the boundary of that particular problem, is said to be your environment, right? And we are going to perceive the environment through sense. Like as a human being, if you take as a human being as an agent, how a human being is perceiving a particular environment through various sensors, whatever we have. These sensors are nothing but our eye, our ear, through which we can listen. We have nose, which you are smelling, or by tongue, you have taste a particular thing. To or other organ by which you are perceiving a particular sensors place in a particular environment. So based upon different rule to understand that we are applying some actions to the environment. Like there is a snake in front of a particular person whenever going to some place, then the person is going to decide, your person is decide whether to stop based on the objects. So by is applying the effectors or to the actuator. How you will move to the left side or right side or backward, it purely depends upon the effectors or actuators what a human being have. Right? What are the effectors we have? We have hands, right? We have legs, we have mouth, we have other body parts which are the effectors, right? So for any particular agent, it is very important to identify what are the sensors we have and what are the effectors we have. The sensors will help you to perceive a particular environment, and this actuator and effectors will help an agent to apply a particular action on the environment. That's why these two are very important part in order to define a particular agent. Like if you see a particular robot, you have made a particular robot and you have decided this is the source point of the robot, and let's say this is the destination point of the robot, right? And a robot, you have to give instructions. There is some obstacles are there in between. Based upon that, the robot is going to apply some action, and it will find a optimal path to reach to the destination, right? So if you see this particular example, the robot is said to be your agent, and robot is running in this particular environment. This is the boundary of your particular problem. Okay, you have to find your destination within this particular boundary. Then how this agent, that is nothing but our robot, okay, is going to sense the particular environment or perceive a particular environment? It is possible through the cameras or infrared finder, whatever attached to a particular robot, right? Through which it is going to perceive a particular environment. Okay, and through the motors, it can apply some of the actions or effectors. For example, in the robot case, in a very simple manner, you can say a robot can move left, it can move right, it can move forward, it can move backward, right? So what it will do, it will first move towards the right, right? Then again there is a right operation, okay? Then it is finding that the obstacle is ending here, then it will move back, move towards down, okay? Or it is forward or something like that. So you have to find a particular path in which you can reach from a source to the destination. So for each type of agent, you have to define what are the sensors you have and what are the effectors you have. So by the help of this sensor, we are perceiving a particular environment. We are finding what are the possibilities in that environment, and by the actuator, out of one of the solutions, you are finally picking a particular solution to act in the environment. So whenever you are perceive a particular environment, you may find n number of solutions, but finally you have to choose one of the solution which is best suitable to you. And for a particular agent, whichever is best suitable, it may different from other agents. For you, solution 1 may be better. In case of other agent, the solution 3 may be better. So what is the best for a particular agent? It depends upon what is the goal of that particular agent. Now I will tell you there are different types of agents are there. The first type of agent is called as your rational agent. The rational agent is one that does the right thing. If an agent takes a right decision, then you can claim that is a rational agent. What is the meaning of right thing? The right thing definition is having an anomaly, right? There are a lot of meaning of right thing. Whatever right for a particular agent, it is not right for other agents. So here, the right thing means you have to apply right action you have to apply right action in the environment so that the agent goal is successful or the agent is successful, right? Then only we call that agent a rational. For example, you are driving a particular car, right? You need to reach the destination within 15 minutes, right? What you did, you have simply violated the traffic rules and reached to the destination. So this, if you violated the rule, okay, then you have reached to the destination instead of 15 minutes is your time limit, but you reached in 12 minutes, right? So for this particular agent, the deadline is the most successful one, right? For another agent case, somebody will tell you have to travel from source to destination with minimum fuel. So he or she found a particular path in which he reached to the destination. For that, the fuel consumption is the most successful or the right action to say that the agent is successful. So it varies with respect to the agent to agent what is the meaning of the right thing or the right action, right? But here we will say that right action is the one that will cause a agent to most successful. But the term most successful is varies with respect to various types of agent. Next is how we are going to decide whether an agent is successful or not. In each and every case, let it be a robot is an agent or a vacuum cleaner is an agent, okay, or a human being an agent. So there is a question arises, how and when, these two clauses here, how and when we can evaluate the agent's success. So like if you consider a vacuum cleaner, right? So vacuum cleaner we are using to clean the floor, right? So let us take the vacuum cleaner as an agent. By taking this example, I will tell you what is the meaning of how and when we can estimate the agent's success. For example, I have taken a performance measure. Like student case, we are taking the performance measure is the grade point average or the percentage. Okay, if a student is performing better in terms of percentage and GPA, then we say that yes, the student is successful, right? So we are awarding the student with some rewards, or those students who are not performing, we are motivating them to perform well, right? Similarly, in the case of agent, we have to find some performance measure. These performance measure will tell us whether the agent is successful or not. Okay, so if you see this vacuum cleaner case, one person can say the amount of dirt cleaned up in a single 8-hour shift. How much dirt is collected by that vacuum cleaner? Based upon that, we are going to say that whether that agent is successful or not. We have given a performance measure. We are looking the performance of that particular agent in a time period. In that, we are saying whether he is successful or not. Okay. A more sophisticated performance measure. The performance measure is not one. The performance measure in the student case is also extracurricular activity like NCC, NSS. People are also participating. Okay. So not only the GPA is the parameter in the case of student. Similarly, in this case, the amount of data collection is not only the measure. Other measures may be the amount of electricity consumed by that particular vacuum cleaner. That can also be considered as a agent success, or the amount of noise generated from that vacuum cleaner can also be considered as a performance measure. That's why what kind of performance measure you will take for a particular problem, what is the goal of a particular agent or a particular problem varies with respect to the agent's goals and objectives. Another performance measure says that highest marks to an agent that not only clean the floor but also do windsurfing. If both of things are done by a particular agent, then you can say the agent is successful. So in the how clause, what you have to decide? You have to decide some of the performance measures through which you can evaluate a agent's success, right? And when you are going to say this agent is success, so if we measure how much that the agent had cleaned off in the first hour of the day. We have given 8 hours, but we are going to see our basis also. Okay, if a vacuum cleaner is performing well, it is cleaning the floor and doing the windsurfing, electricity is also low, and amount of noise generated is also low, then we to reward that particular agent. We have to reward the agent. Or if a vacuum cleaner is not performing well, we have to punish them. Like whenever we are playing a particular match, if a person won a particular match, then we are giving +1 point. Okay. If a person is losing a point, we are giving 0. If the match is drawn, then we are giving equal point to both the teams. In that way, what we are doing, we are awarding a particular team or we are punishing a particular team. So this comes under the when clause, in which you can say whether agent is successful or not. Right? Now coming to the second type of agent, that is called as omniscient agent. So the omniscient agent knows the actual outcome of its action. For example, agent A is taking out of these 3 actions. Let's say the action 1, A1, action 1, and action 2, and action 3. This agent knows what is the actual outcome if you are going to apply action A1 or A2 and A3. Right? If you are applying a particular action in the environment, whatever the outcome, whatever the possible outcome, that is known to the omniscient agent. So if you know what is the actions, means if you know the future, then you are going to apply that particular action. That's why this omniscience is impossible in reality. So this is only a theoretical concept. You know that if you apply the action, then what kind of things you are going to get. So omniscience is impossible in reality. For example, suppose I will take an example, crossing the road with no traffic. You are present in one side of the road, you want to cross the road from left side to the right side. And you observe that there is no vehicle in the left and there is no vehicle in the right. There is no vehicle, means there is no traffic. You can easily cross the road. But while you are crossing the road, you have not observed a vehicle is coming, you face with accident. Then the question arises whether the particular agent, in this case human is an agent, is irrational to cross the street from the left to right side. So it is no, because every time whenever you are crossing the road from left side to the right, maximum cases you are successful. But one case you have failed, right? If you are applying a particular action onto the on a particular agent, every time you are successful only. But suddenly one day you are not observed carefully or something happened or a vehicle is not visible, that is very fast that by that vehicle you face a particular accident, right? So here you cannot say that an agent is irrational, or you cannot say that omniscient agent has predicted that you will face an accident, right? That we observe that in our past history that maximum times we are crossing, we are not facing such accident. That's why crossing the street was rational, because most of the time the crossing was successful. But whatever the actual outcome is there, that is called as our omniscient agent. If you predict whatsoever thing and you are getting the same thing, then that is called as your omniscient agent. Next is, what is rational at any given time depends upon the 4 things. You have to consider 4 things in order to say. My voice is audible. Somebody is writing voice is not audible.
Sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you very much. So the rational factor depends upon the 4 things. First thing is the degree of success. What you are going to achieve in the agent such that it is successful. Like that, if you see in artificial intelligence, we have a Umpus-Wald problem. You can go for this particular problem, that is called as Umpus-Wald problem. Okay, so there is an agent and there is a Umpus. The objective is to kill the Umpus, right? In a 4x4 square, right? Umpus is present in one location, right? You are not aware of that particular location, and agent is present in the very beginning of that particular box, okay, or in a 4x4 square, it is present in 1-1 position, and agent is unaware that where is the Umpus, right? But our objective is to kill the Umpus and grab the gold. And gold is also available in out of these 16 squares. Somewhere the square is somewhere the gold is there, and somewhere Umpus is there. Our objective is two objectives. One is we have to kill the Umpus and we have to grab the gold. Okay. So once you have done these things, your objective is fulfilled. You can say your agent is successful. So your performance measure is nothing but the amount of gold you have collected or the total gold you have collected. Second is your Umpus must be dead, right? That is the first factor you have to see. Second one is you have to see the perceptual history. What is perceptual history? From the childhood to till today, we have observed many sequences. Okay, many things we have learned, right? And many things is repeated in our life. So based upon the past experience, you can say what is the possible action. Okay, based upon the past experience, whatsoever you have, based upon that you can suggest this is the action because that particular thing is happened to you. Similarly, for a particular problem, you can go for a perceptual history. Perceptual history says that what should be the input, and by giving this input, what should be the output. What kind of action you have applied and what is the final output, right? But whenever you go for complete perceptual history, here we are talking about complete perceptual history means all possible combinations. Like you know, if I take a 2 input in a binary gate, so you know that the number of possible combination is 2 to the power 2 is 4. Either it is 0 0 or 0 1 or 1 0 or 1 1. So if you have observed what is the output in the case of 0 0, in the case of 2 input, or 0 1 or 1 0 and 1 1, and you have observed the output, then you have the complete perceptual history of that particular problem, right? So if you go for this complete perceptual history, then you can build a particular database kind of thing, which we call as a inbuilt function or inbuilt knowledge, in which each and every sequence is present in that particular history. So by the next time, if somebody is giving input as 0 1, you know what is the output. You need not calculate or you need not observe that particular gate. Okay. So if you consider this gate as an agent, then once this complete perceptual history is known to you, the agent is meaningless. The agent is meaningless because all the inputs and outputs are with you in the form of inbuilt knowledge. So without looking into that gate or observing the things, you can tell that what is the output. So these two things I'll tell you with another example, what is a complete perceptual history and why you are not interested to know the complete perceptual history. And if you know the complete perceptual history, how the agent is meaningless or agent lacks the autonomy, that we are going to see in an example. And in order to generate the perceptual history, you are going for a percept sequence. Like in the robot case, if you can say a robot should be moved towards left, then towards right, then let's say in forward direction or in the backward direction, then left, then it will reach to the destination. So this is a perceptual sequence. If you follow this sequence, then the robot can reach to the destination. Okay, this may not be the only solutions, but this is a solution to reach to the destination. Third part is what the agent knows about the environment. Like I told you in this Umpuswal problem, when the agent is present here, and these squares are the neighbor squares, right? These two squares are the neighbor squares by assuming the diagonal move is not allowed. So agent has to perceive these two environment in this particular box. In this square, you have to observe what is the things available in this box, what is the thing available in this box. So whether agent is aware of that particular thing or not, that you can see. So sometimes agent is fully observing a particular environment, or agent has partial knowledge about the environment. Agent has no knowledge about the particular environment. Based upon that also its success is depends upon, right? Fourth one is the action the agent can perform. What kind of action agent can perform? Like if you are present here, okay, left operation is not possible. You can move towards right or you can move towards up, right? The down move and left move is not applicable. So you cannot apply all type of actions to a particular agent in each and every location. Okay, so you can see, like if you are present here, then you can say yes, left move is possible, right move is possible, upward move is possible, downward move is possible, right? But in the case of different parts of the environment, all the operations are not possible. So with these four things, you can observe a particular environment and you can decide what is rational, okay, at any given point of time. Now, next type of agent is called as ideal rational agent. Here, the ideal rational agent is a type of agent which is expected to maximize its performance measure. Whatever performance measure you have taken, it is going to maximize it. Like if you are taking fuel consumption, the best one is you have to minimize the fuel consumption. Maximize the performance measure means the overall performance should be good. Either it is maximized or the minimized. Or if you have taken the traffic rules, then you can say nobody should violate the traffic rules. That is the maximum one, right? So such type of performance measures, the ideal rational agent takes as an objective, right? And it is also depend upon the perceptual sequence and whatever the built-in knowledge the agent has. So gradually, when the agent is working in a particular environment, its built-in knowledge is increased. Okay, although it is not a complete perceptual history, but partial perceptual history is available with that particular agent. Then come to ideal mapping. What ideal mapping says that? Ideal mapping says that you have to map between the percept sequence and actions. Percept sequence is nothing but the sequence of input. Action is if you apply such input, what you are going to get as an output, right? If you turn towards left, what is the circumstance? If you turn towards right, what is the circumstance? So that is the action we are maintaining in a table, right? So ideal mapping is mapping these two things. One is percept sequence, another is actions, right? So let us see a small example to clarify this idea. So here you can see I have written a small procedure. I have written a particular function which is nothing but a square root function. In square root function, you have to give x value as input. Okay, so x value may be anything, may be given by a particular user, right? Let's say x value, a user is giving input as 1.0, right? X value is 1.0, right? And once I'll get this parameter value x, then I am checking the conditions. Whatever things are available in this function, I am evaluating. So z value is also initialized to 1.0, which we called as a initial guess. Then I am calculating z square minus x. Z is 1, that is 1 square, minus x value I have taken as 1, modulus 10 to the power minus 15. Okay, so 1 square is 1 minus 1, that is 0, and 10 to the power minus 15 is a positive number. It is a very small positive number, 0.0001, right? Okay, 10 to the, that is 1 by 10 to the plus 15. If we are going to evaluate as it is true, we have to calculate z is equal to z minus z square minus x by 2z. Z is 1 minus 1 square minus 1 is 0 divided by 2 into z, right? 2 into z is 1. So you are going to get 1 by 2, right? Or you are going to calculate a function like this z minus x. So z equal to 1 minus 1 square minus x is 0 divided by 2 into anything is 0. So you are going to get the value as 1. Okay. Just I am giving an illustration, right? Whether it is z is equal to z minus z square x by 2z, or it equal to z minus, right? So whatever result you are getting here, okay, after this particular calling of this particular function, you are writing here. That is your action z. What it indicates? If the percept sequence is 1.0, your action is 1.00, right? Similarly, you have given the x value as 1.1 and you have observed what is the value returned by this particular function. Value 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, everything you have tried, and whatever result you are getting, that you are representing in the form of a table, right? Which we call as a perceptual history. Right? This is input and this is the output. Assume that if I tell you, assume that find the square root of the number in between 1.02, let's say 2.0. Okay, and it is up to after decimal point, you will take only one number. That means 2.0, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2.0. I'll get the values of these things, and you have applied these x values into this particular function. Okay, and whatever result you are getting, that you are maintaining in this function. So once you find all the values, once you have determined in between these two range, okay, what will happen? There is no need of this algorithm, this particular range. Then once I determine all the values, this algorithm is not required. Why it is not required? Because we know that the 1.0 or 1.1 or 0, either one will be 2.0 up to 2.0. So once you generate all possible number of combinations in a particular range, or a number will be there, then this particular agent, that is a function, is meaningless. We did not require this particular function. By the next time a user will enter 1.5, I'll tell this is the output. We need not bother about what is the calculation. Okay. That's why what I told you, if you generate a complete perceptual history, or if you have a complete built-in knowledge, then agent lacks autonomy. Agent is have no autonomy because already everything is generated, everything is available in the built-in knowledge, right? There is no attention to our this particular function, right? So, but all the problems case, if you see total number of possible combinations, it is not small. It is quite very high, right? If you go for a chess program or if you go for a scheduling problem, you can find the number of possible combination is very huge. So in that case, it is practically not possible to record all the possible percepts and their possible actions. One of the example here you can see, suppose you go for a clock owners, okay? There is a clock owner is designing various types of clock and selling the clock to various people. One person has weighed a particular clock. He is traveling from India to Australia, where the time difference is 6 hours. Right? So when he reached to the Australia, the time, the watch, whatever he weighed, it is showing the time of the India only. It is not changing the time to 6 hours to show the values in the Australian standard time. Right? So here if you see, the intelligence seems to belong to the clock's designer rather than the clock itself. So if the clock designer has given such kind of intelligence into that clock that it can track some GPS location or some update or some region things, right? Based upon that, it can update a particular thing. Then the clock value can be available. The time, whatever it is showing, it may be as per the Australian standard time. But here, as there is no such cases is there, we have to manually set up that particular thing. So all possible sequences in the case of the clock also, it is not practically possible to maintain the perceptual history. Next is, let us see what are the different structures of an intelligent agent. So here you can see the relationship of an agent and its architecture, and the program. If you see, an agent is nothing but depends upon the architecture plus program. Any agent you are considering, it depends upon what is the architecture of that particular problem and the program. Based upon that, you can we have different types of structures. Like you can see here, suppose I'll consider our medical diagnosis system is our agent. So for each and every agent case, what you have to identify? What is the perception? What are the actions? What are the goals? And what are the environments? Okay. What type of environment you are working, and the agent is working. So if you go for medical diagnosis system, what may be the process? We have seen in the previous example, so process we are giving 1.2, 1.3 as an input, and in the action case we are calculating square root of that number. Whatever value is coming, we are putting in the actions. So if you see in the medical diagnosis system, the symptoms of a particular patient, okay, symptoms or the findings or patient's answer with respect to the doctor's questions is treated as a perception. That is the problem, right? And once it is recorded, okay, what you have to do? You have to apply some actions. What is the actions? The action may be doctor may write, doctor may suggest for some kind of treatments. So that is our action. What should be the goal? If our agent is medical diagnosis system, our goal is to be a healthy patient. The patient should be healthy, and the patient should minimize the cost in the health case, right? There is no much cost the patient should pay at a hospital. Okay, and environment is patient, doctor, hospital is our environment entities, right? Like that, if you can see a lot of agent types I have listed in this particular one. You can choose one of the particular agent type. Based upon that, you can identify what are the process, actions, goals, and environment. For example, you can see interactive English tutor, right? So in this case, if you see the percepts is your typed word, okay, and action is some exercise is given to you, okay. Based upon that, you have to correct yourself. You have to see the suggestions. Based upon that, you can correct yourself, right? And our objective is that the participant who is participating in this tutor, they should secure high score. They should secure good score, right? The maximized student score is our goal, and the set of students is our environment. So for each and every type of agent, you have to define this thing. Now there is a question arises: why not just look up the answers? Already I told you this. Why not we are looking into the answer? For example, if you go for a chess game, if you see the number of entries in a chess game is 35 to the power 100. The number of entries possible in a game is 35 to the 100. Just I told you, if it is a 2-input gate, the possible number of entries is 4, right? The input may be 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. So if you go for this chess game, that is 35 to the 100, right? It is a very big number. I cannot maintain the percept sequence of 35 to the 100 and with their actions. Their percepts, actions, we cannot maintain in a particular table. We cannot go for a complete perceptual history. That's why looking the answer from this particular table sometimes leads to failure. If it is a small problem, that is fine. But whenever we are dealing with the problems of AI and machine learning especially, these problems are not small, right? So generating these many entries is practically not possible, right? Even if you generate such entries, 35 to the 100 entries, search will take much more time in order to identify, right? Why you are generating this particular table? You are generating this particular table because in future this sequence will come, so you need not bother about the agent. You can directly see the action and apply it, right? So if you design such table, search time is also takes more, and the time to build this table is also more. Sometimes what happens, if there is a variation happens, suppose you have said that these are the percept sequence, but there is a new percept sequence is introduced due to some unexpected reason. Then what happens? Agent is depending upon the complete perceptual history, and in that complete perceptual history, you do not have any action for that particular percept sequence. So your agent will fail at that particular time. Okay. So if there is some unexpected way is there, the agent may be lost. Okay, so you have, that's why we are not looking into the answer. And also the degree of autonomy will always be lost, right? So it is better to put some kind of a learning mechanism so that agent can observe something from particular percept sequence, and for the rest of the percept sequence, whatever he learned for using this percept sequence, that can be applied to other percept sequence. In this way, we can avoid the number of percept sequence in the complete perception history. Okay, see in the taxi driver case, as I told you, there are different types of performance measures are there. Our objective is to reach to the correct destination in a safer way, or we are faster way, or we have a comfortable trip, or we have to maximize the profit. So here, if you concentrate the performance measure may be fuel consumption. So fuel consumption means our objective is to minimize the fuel consumption. Okay, our objective is to minimize the trip time. Our objective is to minimize the violation of traffic laws. Our objective is to maximize safety and passengers' comfort, maximize the profit. So our objective is different, right? With respect to the different type of agent or different types of environment, our objective is different, right? And sometimes what happens, whatever solution you have proposed for a particular problem, that may not be applicable to the similar problems. For example, if you see in our India, the driver is sitting in the right side. Suppose you have developed a particular problem and its possible solutions where the driver is sitting in the right side, right? If you go to Britain or Japan, there the driver is sitting in the left side, right? So now I have simply changed a simple parameter. Driver is sitting towards the right hand side. Driver is now sitting in the left side. So the same solutions, whatever you have proposed for the first case, it may not be applicable to the second one, right? We have to be whenever some small parameter is changed in a particular problem, it may be treated as a new problem as well. That you have to take care whenever you are developing a particular problem. Okay, there are different types of agents are there. The first type of agent is called as a simple reflex agent. Okay, simple reflex agent is observing a particular environment. Based upon that, it is applying a particular action. Okay, we are going to discuss these. There are these 4 types of agent. In addition to that, I will tell you about the learning agent. Let us go to direct the agent, different types of agent. So see here, this is your agent environment. Okay, this is the agent, and this part is your environment. So a agent is perceiving the environment through the sensors, and the agent is applying some kind of actions through the actuators or effectors, right? So in every type of agent, you will find 2 parts. One is your agent, another is environment. The agent is perceiving through the sensors, applying some action through the actuators. So when the agent is perceiving through the sensors, it will ask a question, what the world is like now. For example, you are driving a particular car, and the car in front of you is initiating braking, or it is moving in a very fast rate. Now it is slowed down, right? So once it is slowed down, then there is a question arises, what the world is like now. The world is like now means in the car in front of me, it is initiating the braking process. So what I have to do? I have to also initiate the braking process, right? So once I am observing the environment that the other agents or other cars, they have initiated the braking process. So I am applying a particular action. That what action I should do now. So this what action I should do now based upon the condition action rule. Condition action rule is nothing but our if else statement. If this condition is satisfied, then we are going to execute this particular action, right? Like you can see here, if the car in front of is braking, then I have to also initiate the braking process, right? So simple reflex agent observe a particular environment and represent everything in the form of the condition action rule. Okay, but if the condition is not satisfied, or if a new things happen, then for that action there is no possible action. So there simple reflex agent will fail, right? So that is the main disadvantage of simple reflex agent. So it will only work if the correct decision can be made upon the current percept. If something is changed, then you are not going to find a possible action. That's why we are not dependent on the complete perceptual history, right? If you build the complete perceptual history, then the condition action rule you can apply. But building this complete perceptual history is very difficult. So now the second type of agent, what we are going to discuss, that is called as reflex agent with state. So in the reflex agent with the states also, you can see the same thing, whatever available in the simple reflex agent, the same thing is there. Just we have added few more points, like these three things we have added. So here what we are doing, what the world is like now, we are representing in the form of various states. Like if you see a particular four square, right? Suppose you are reaching to that particular four square from one direction. So you have three possibilities. You can move towards left, you can move towards right, or you can go straight, right? So you have to decide at this particular point that which option you have to choose in order to reach to your destination. Sometimes if you choose the left, you cannot reach to the destination. So each and every thing is represented in the form of state. So in order to answer this particular question, what the world is like now you have several states. So you have to choose the states. Based upon that, you have to apply a particular action. Like one path may be the shortest path, another path you may have less traffic, another path maybe there may not be a toll gate. So based upon that, you can choose a particular path, right? And also you have how the world is evolves, that also depends. Sometimes you have two paths are available, sometimes three paths are available, and what your actions do in this also you have to represent in the form of state. Okay, so if you compare this simple reflex agent with states, so you can see the simple reflex agent depends upon the current situation, right? You have seen the situation that a car in front of you is initiating braking, so you have to also initiate the braking. But in the reflex agent, in addition to this current situation, okay, which depends upon the percept sequence, we have also dependent on the internal states. Both things are required in order to take a current step, right? Or your current situation is depends upon the percepts as well as your stored internal state. Third type of agent is called as your goal-based agent. In the goal-based agent, we added a new question here that you can see. That is what it will be like if I do a action A. For a particular problem, you may have several solutions, right? So you have to choose a particular solution based upon the further circumstance, right? So here we are asking if you are going to choose a particular path, like I told you, we can go straight, we can move towards left, we can move towards the right. So if I choose one of the options, then whether I can reach to my destination or not, right? So what will be like if I do a particular action A? Sometimes if you choose a particular solution, you may not reach to the destination based upon your objective, whatever you have set. So these particular questions you have set here, and in addition to this condition action rule, here we are more focusing on the goals. We are not focusing on the condition action rule because everything you cannot represent in the form of condition action rule, right? So that's why it is called as goal-based agent, or sometimes we call it an agent with an explicit goal. Maybe fuel consumption is the goal, maybe traffic violation of traffic laws. We have to minimize that. Maybe our goal. Okay, our goal may be how happily we are reaching to the destination. So that you have to decide in the goal-based agent. The next one is called as your utility-based agent. Utility-based agent is going to reward you or punish you based upon your action. Suppose you are taking a particular action A, then it will ask the next question, how happy I will be in such a state. For example, if a car in front of you is initiating the braking, there may be a possibility that you have seen that there is no car coming from your opposite side, so you can turn right and you can overtake that car. That may be also one of the possibilities. So if you are choosing that particular action, then you have to see how happy you will be if you are going to take that action, whether you can cross that car without facing an accident or not. Okay, so here we are calculating the utility factor. The utility factor, just like I told you, whenever you are playing a game, once a player is in a particular game we are going to give +1. Once a game a particular person is losing, we are giving 0. Okay, or if the match is drawn, we are giving equal point 0.5 to both the players. So that utility you are going to give, right? This utility value may not be in the range of 0 to 1. It may be any range, but that utility factor will tell you whether you are progressing or you are not progressing in that particular problem. So if you see these things in the utility based agent, we are the utility factor. If you see in the previous case in the goal based agent, it may be the goal may be quicker, it may be a safer, it may be more reliable, or it may be cheaper, right? Sometimes a goal may be conflict to each other. You have two goals like time and space. If you see in the algorithm, they are having conflict objective. If you are minimizing the time, the space is increased. If you minimize the space, the time is increased. Or if you see in our case also, whenever we are traveling in air, the cost is very high, but the time is less. Or whenever we are traveling in train, okay, or rail communication, so that time the price is less, but the time is more. So whenever you are choosing two different objectives, they may conflict to each other. So which may lead to some conflicting goals. So you have to balance both things. Either you have to convert a minimized problem to maximization or a maximization problem to minimization in order to balance it. So you have to find a proper trade-off between two different goals in order to finally reach to whatever you want, right? So that is depends upon the different types of agents goals, right? And the next type of agent, that is called as learning agent. In the previous 4 agent case, there is no learning components. Either we are depending upon the goal or we are depending upon the condition action rule, but agent is not learning from that particular environment. That's why in the learning based agent, what we have a learning element. What this learning element will do, it is going to collect the feedback from the critic. Just like whenever we are watching a particular movie, right? In the very first day, so the critic is giving some opinion, right? That opinion will tell us that whether we are going to watch the movie if we have not seen that particular movie, right? Similarly, here you can see whenever an agent is working in a particular environment, the critic is going to provide some feedback. Based upon the critic feedback, you have to change the components, change the parameters. In order to change the parameter, you have to depend upon the performance element. So we are changing the parameters in such a manner that we can maximize our efficiency. That part is missing in the previous agent, but learning agent is going to add this particular part, right? So here you can see, and a learning agent in artificial intelligence is a type of agent which can learn from its past experience, or it has learning capabilities. So you have to learn from the past experience. Based upon that, you can set a various parameters. Like if you go for the neural network also, whatever parameters we are maintaining, that parameters we are adjusting with respect to the iteration. After a couple of iterations, we are reaching to a particular stage where there is a stability of the system is seen, right? There we are considering this parameter values can be set like this in order to achieve a better output, right? So here we have also problem generator. This problem generator is responsible for suggesting various actions that will lead to new or informative experience. Whatever experience you have not made in the past, that also may occur. That it may occur in an unexpected way, or it may occur in the expected way, right? In which you have to learn the various experience, and based upon that you have to modify the learning component. So if you see the nature of the environment is also various types. So it may be seen with respect to 5 different properties. The first property says that the environment may be accessible or it may be inaccessible. Whatever state space or whatever problem or whatever environment you are working, if you know the complete state of that particular environment, then we call it accessible. For example, if you go for a chessboard example, in chessboard example, you know that there is a 8 cross 8. The board is 8 cross 8. So you know the complete state of environment. You do not know where the elements are there, but you know that the environment is limited to 8 cross 8 board. Or you go for Umpus world problem, there is a 4x4 board is there, right? That is fixed. Or you go for tic-tac-toe game, in that you have a 3x3 board is there. So agent is completely known to that particular environment. Agent is aware of the complete state of the environment. If such a problem is there, you can say that environment is accessible. Or if you are, suppose you are driving a particular car, so you can reach to the destination in multiple paths. There is no particular path to reach a particular destination. So there you can say this particular environment is inaccessible. The agent may not aware of each and everything. Suppose you are looking to in front of the car, then only you are observing the environment. When you go to the next step, in the next step the complete environment is not known to you. Similarly, the properties of the environment can be divided into deterministic or non-deterministic. So deterministic says that if the next state of the environment is completely determined by the current state. Suppose you want to move from a state A to another state B. Okay, so this next state B is purely depends upon your current state A, then that is called as a deterministic. Okay, but if there is a the state B is not depends upon A, it may depends upon other states also, or it is not depend upon any other states. Then you can say that is called as a non-deterministic environment. Similarly, you can also make the properties of the environment as episodic or non-episodic. In episodic, what you are doing, you are dividing the entire things into number of episodes. Like a particular serial, if you see, that serial is divided into number of episodes, right? And one episode's outcome is depends upon the second episode's input, right? One's output is given as input to another episode's input. So you have also observed that whenever you are playing something in the chessboard also, whenever you are moving a particular element, your opponent is also moving the element based upon what movement you have done, right? So if you can divide these things into number of episodes, then we call it the episodic environment, otherwise it is non-episodic. And environment may be static and dynamic. Whenever you are acting on a particular environment, and whenever you are acting, if other elements are also moving. For example, in the Umpus world problem, when the agent is moving, let's say the Umpus is also moving in the 4x4 board. Then agent action is you have to change in each and every step. If it is a dynamic environment, because if you are predicting that the Umpus is available in 2 region, so whenever you are moving from 1 region to 1 region, it may also change its location, right? So the environment may be dynamic as well. Similarly, the next property is it may be a discrete or continuous. Like chess game is completely a discrete one, taxi driving is continuous. So based upon that, you can find different properties of the environment, and you can say what is the hardness of that particular problem. Like in this case, if you see, if a particular environment is inaccessible and non-deterministic, non-episodic, dynamic, and continuous, then that is the hardest case. And here I am showing you a set of examples. Like if you see in the case of taxi driving, you are not aware of the complete state of the information, the environment, that's why it is no. And the environment is not deterministic, right? And you cannot divide a taxi driving into number of episodes. And the environment is completely dynamic and it is continuous, right? So it is also one of the hardest case whenever you are defining a particular problem. Similarly, you can go through other examples in which you can see whether a particular environment is accessible or deterministic or non-deterministic or episodic, non-episodic, static or dynamic or discrete or continuous. Okay, now coming to the next one, that is our problem solving. So if you want to define a particular problem, how we are going to define a problem? It says that a goal and a set of means to achieve that particular goal, right? That is called as our problem. You have to decide what is your goal. Like taxi driving case, your correct destination is your goal. And how you are going to achieve that goal? Okay, through a set of steps, you are going to achieve that goal. That is called as a problem. Okay, and problem is always a problem is given in a particular environment. Like chessboard is our environment. A road may be in the taxi driving case, it is our environment. And we have to explore everything in that particular environment. right? So here we are calling is a problem solving agent. What problem solving agent is doing? Problem solving agent decide what to do by finding a sequence of action that lead to a desirable state. You see the example of robots. In the robot case, we are moving from a source to destination by executing a set of sequence. Okay, or I call this as a perceived sequence. So if you find a particular sequence, you can move from one location to another location, right? So that is called as a problem solving agent, because our objective is to solve this problem by reaching to the destination. Okay, so any type of problem you are defining in artificial intelligence, the problem definition is very much important. So if you define that problem, then finding the solution is next 50% work. But defining the problem is very much important. So let us go to directly the problem because we have very limited time. Okay, so in order to formulate the problems can be categorized into 4 types. One is called a single state problem, multi-state problem, contingency problem, exploration problem. So I'll take an example in order to illustrate these 4 types of problems. Let us consider the vacuum void problem. Okay, in the vacuum void problem, we assume that there is 2 locations. So you assume that a room is there, that room is partitioned into 2 parts, or 2 consecutive rooms are there. And in each and every room, there may be a dart or there may not be a dart. Okay, some garbage things are there, and that vacuum cleaner is going to collect that dart, right? And if you see in this case, as you have 2 rooms, and in the both places there may be some garbage is there or there may not be a garbage. So if you model this particular problem, you are going to get 8 possible states. And what kind of action you can apply in each state? You can apply 3 different possible actions. The vacuum cleaner can move towards the left or towards the right, or if it found some garbage or that, it has to apply the shock operation. So this is the complete history. You can see the vacuum cleaner is available in left side, and that is available left side to the right side. Another possible state, the vacuum cleaner is present in the right side and that is present in the both side. Vacuum cleaner and that available in the left side, right side is there. Similarly, in the nothing is fourth state, you can say that that is available in the left side, vacuum cleaner in the right side. Fifth case is just reverse of the fourth, that is vacuum cleaner is present in the left side, but that is present in the right side. Sixth case, both are present, that is opposite of your 3. And 7 and 8, the vacuum cleaner is present in either left or right side, and there is no dart in the left side and right side. So if you formulate this problem, you have 8 possible states. What kind of action you can apply? As I mentioned, the vacuum cleaner can move towards left or moves towards right, or can apply the shock operation. If you apply shock operation, then you are collecting the dart or garbage, right? So with respect to this particular problem, let us see what is a single state problem. Now, suppose you are present in the state number 5. In state number 5, if you see, there is a vacuum cleaner in the left side, okay, and the dart is present in the right side. So what action you will apply? Your action should be, you have to move right and apply the shock operation. In this case, if you see, there is no dart in the left side, so no need to apply the shock operation. So you have to move towards the right, so that you will move from the state 5 to state 6. Okay, once you move to the right, then you will be in the state 6. In the state 6, you have to apply the shock operation. If you apply the shock operation, 6th state is converted to the 8th state, right? And this is your final state. If you reach to the 7th state or 8th state, both states are your final state, right? So you can see from moving from 5 to 6 and 6 to 8, whenever you are applying a particular action, there is exactly one state. In state 5, if you apply the right operation, then you can reach to state number 6. There is no other state possible. That's why this problem is called as a single state problem. Now, see what is a multi-state problem. Suppose you are present in one of the states. It may be 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 8. Any state you are present. If you apply right operation, any step you are present, if you apply the right operation, then you will reach to either 2 or 4 or 6 or 8. How? Let us see. Suppose I am present in state number 3. I am applying right operation. That means I am reaching to state number 4. The vacuum cleaner is present in the right side, that is present in the left side. Suppose I am present in the 7th location. I am applying right operation. Then I am moving to 8th operation, right? I am moving to the state number 8, right? So similarly, in any state, you can apply the right operation, you will reach to state number 2 or 4 or 6 or 8. So your operation, right, makes a vacuum cleaner to reach to either state 2 or 4 or 6 or 8. So that is called as your multi-state problem, right? But what is the unique solution? The unique solution is irrespective of the state, if I'll apply right sock and left sock operation, then my job is over. Any state you are present, if you apply this operation, then you will reach to either state number 7 or state number 8. Third type of problem. Third type of problem is called as contingency problem. The contingency problem says that if you are applying sock operation, okay, if there is no DAT is there, that unnecessarily you are applying that operation and unnecessarily you are wasting the time and the carpet is also dirty. So you have to check that whether the DAT is available in one of the location or not. If the DAT is available in that location, then only you can apply the sock operation. So that is called as a contingency problem, in which rewarding and punishing factor plays an important role. But all the problems may not be represented in the form of a state, that we have seen in the different types of agent. Sometimes the condition action rule works, sometimes the goal works, sometimes the learning environment works. So the fourth type of problem is called your exploration problem, which we call as, suppose you are traveling from a source to destination, you are exploring the path, you are not aware of that path. There may be multiple paths are there. Based upon the Google map, you are going to find a particular path, you are able to see the traffic is busy or not. Based upon that, you are taking whether the path 1 is better or path 2 or path 3 is better. Such type of problem, you are exploring your destination. That is called as your exploration problem. Now, if you see the state diagram or state space graph of this vacuum cleaner problem, this is the state space diagram. So you can see all the 8 states are present. So in each and every state, you can apply the left operation, right operation, or the sock operation. So if you are present in this particular state, if you are applying right operations, then what happens? The vacuum cleaner will move towards the right. Okay, and the scenario is like this. And in this state, if you are applying right operation, then you are present in the same state only. Okay, or if you are applying the sock operation here, it will be look like this particular state. So for each and every state, if you represent like this, then you can easily trace what is your percept. Based upon that, what should be your action. So in each and every problem, we define a particular problem in terms of 4 things, that is states. Like here, we are defining various states. 8 states are there. And what are the actions? Like left operation, right operation, sock operation, or you can say no operation. We are not applying no operation. Like if you are present in the state number 7 or state number 8, you will not apply any kind of operation. Then we are checking the goal test. Goal test is that there is no DAT available in either location. Okay, in the 2 locations there should not be any DAT. And the path cost is 1 per action. For example, you are present here and you want to reach to state number 7 and 8. So you have to apply a sequence of operation. Based upon the sequence of operation, you can reach from a particular state to another state. So E per action I am charging, let's say 1. Okay, 1 is the cost, any cost unit I am taking. But if you are not applying any operation, the cost is 0. So irrespective of the problem, you have to define these 4 parameters. Okay, so quickly I will tell you some other problems also. Like there is a problem that is in the, if you go for the Romania map, in Romania map there is a city called Arad, okay, that we represent here by A, right? And our objective is we have to reach to another city, that is Bucharest, that is represented by B. Our objective is to find a path from A to B, where A to B is not directly reachable. Okay, so what I will do, in my source city, I will explore which one is the neighbor city, right? Let's say Z is my neighbor city, S is my neighbor city, T is my neighbor city. Okay, then what I will estimate? I will estimate if I am choosing this Z city. Okay, what is the distance from Z to B? Whether Z and B is directly reachable or not. And S to B, whether they are directly reachable or not. What is the cost? Similarly, T to B. So based upon these things, we are going to decide which one we will choose it, right? For a particular problem, you have to define these things. Like here, the initial state is our Earth. The successor function means what decision you have taken from to move from a state A to any other state. Like I will say, successor of A is nothing but Z, S, and T. So I have to choose one path based upon some conditions, right? It may be based upon the path cost, it may be the distance, it may be the fuel consumption. Based upon that, I can decide. What is our goal test? Our goal test is we have to reach to the city number B. Okay, the city named B. If you reach to the city B, your destination is reached. And path cost, you have to calculate how much cost you have incurred to travel from A to Z or Z to some other city, let's say B, every cost you have to calculate. This type of problem is, let's say, B. It's called as a single state problem. Let us see some other problem. Another problem is your 8 puzzle game. We have played in our childhood that 8 puzzle, and the number is from 1 to 8. So you have to arrange them in a proper order, right? And your goal state, you can see, it should be like this. Initial state maybe, but final goal state is they should be arranged 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in this order. Okay, for this particular problem also, you have to identify what are the possible states, what kind of actions you can apply. Like here, you can apply the left operation, right operation, and down operation. But these operations are not applicable in each and every square. I mentioned you that if you go for this particular square, here you cannot apply left operation or down operation. Okay, you can apply that is up operation as well as the right operation. So based upon that, you have to explore the problem. And the goal test is you have to reach that particular state. Whatever mentioned here, if you reach to that, then you can say you have reached your goal. And path cost is every movement. Suppose I am moving to here, right? 4 to here, the cost is here. Moving to here, so that moving to this place is 1, and moving 4 to this 2 is also 1. The cost is 2. And if you see, the optimal solution of this N puzzle family belongs to our NP Hart family, right? So it is also known as a sliding block puzzle. So for every problem, you have to define these things. Based upon that, you have to find the possible solutions. Another is called as robotic assembly. A robot is there. You have 5-6 components, and you want to assemble a particular product. So you have to choose which product to take first, which product to take second. So you have to know the coordinates of each and every real valued coordinates of robot joint angles, right? So based upon that, you can build a particular product. Okay, you have to pick a particular product, which one is to be assembled first, which one to assemble last. So everything you have to do, because there is no manual work in here, right? Everything is fully automatic. So complete assembly with no robot included. Okay, you have to do complete assembly with let's say there is no manual things are required. So that is a goal test, right? And how much time is required to execute the things, that is called as the path cost. This is another type of problem. This is a very famous problem that is called as your 8 queen problem. In 8 queen problem, you have to place 8 queens in the chessboard such that no queen is going to attack any other queen. And queen is moving in the horizontal way or vertical way or in the diagonal way. That means if you place a queen here, you should not place the same another queen in the same row, okay, or same column or in the diagonal. If you put, like here I have put another queen, then one of the queen will attack any other queen, right? So that is not a solution. So you have to place these 8 queens in such a manner that no queen is going, no other out of 8 queens, they will not attack each other. So if you see this particular problem, the goal test is 8 queens are on board and none attack. Nobody is going to attack any other queen, right? Path cost, you can say, if you successfully place 8 queen, then you are successful. Okay, you can say movement also 1, the cost is 1 also, you can say. Or you can say if all 8 queens are placed, then you are successful or your operation is unsuccessful. So if you see this particular problem, 64 to the power 8 number of possible sequences are possible, because total 8 cross 8 board is there. So if you find the possible sequences for the coin is 64 to the power 8. So going for 60 to the power 8 number of solutions to check what kind of actions I can apply in this particular environment is not practically feasible. Like one of the quick calculation on this particular 8 coin problem says that we have 2057 possible sequences to investigate. We need not go for 64 to the power 8, which is a very big number, right? So you have to define in each and every problem, you have to define these things. Another type of problem is called as crypt arithmetic problem. In crypt arithmetic problem, you are given with a set of letters and set of digits. You have to map the letters to the digits such that the letters sum is same as the digit sum. For example, here you can say I have written 40, in which F is mapped to 2, O is moved to 9, R is moved to 7, T is moved to 8, and Y is moved to 6. Each and every alphabet is mapped to a particular number. So if you sum this one, 40 plus 10 plus 10, then I am writing 60, right? So here you can see the corresponding F value is 2. So I am writing F is equal to 2. And O value is 9, R value is 7, T value is 8, and Y value is 6. Similarly, T value you have taken 8 here. So I am writing T value is 8, E value is 5, and 0 is N. So if you sum this one, you are going to get this one. So the letters corresponding to this digit should be 3's corresponding should be S, 1's corresponding should be I, and 4's corresponding should X, and T's corresponding should be T, and 8 corresponding should be T, and 6 corresponding should be Y. Okay, you have to replace all occurrences of the letter with a digit not ready appearing in the project. You should not assign the same value to two different alphabets. If you are doing so, also the calculation should be correct. Okay, so here if you see the goal test is the puzzle contains only digit represent the correct sum. This correct sum is same as the 60. The equivalent numbers for S, I, X, T, Y should be 3, 1, 4, 8, 6 respectively. Right? If you say, then it is valid. If all the solutions are equally valid, then no need to calculate the path cost. In that case, we are saying path cost is 0. Like 8 queens problem also, if you see, you may find a solution in 2057 steps. One person can find a solution in 3000 steps, right? So both solutions are valid because our objective is to place all the 8 queens in the chessboard. Okay, one may give a quicker solution, another person may not give a quicker solution, but all the solutions are equally valid. Similarly, vacuum weld problem we have already discussed. You can calculate the action cost as 1, and each action cost is 1, and you have to say how faster you can reach to a particular state number, either state number 7 or 8, which is called your destination state. So this is another problem that is called as missionary carnivals problem. There are 3 missionaries, there is 3 carnivals, and there is a boat. They are present in one side of the river. Your objective is to move them from one side of the river to another side of the river. So the initial state is they are present 3, 3, 1. 3 missionaries are there, 3 carnivals are there, and 1 boat is there. Okay, and the boat can move towards the left side or right side. Okay, so your goals, the state is use all the 3, 3, 1 with 3 missionaries, 3 carnivals, and 1 boat. They should be present in the opposite side. Suppose you are present in the left side, then all the missionary carnivals they should move to the right side. Or if you are present in the right side, they should move to the left side. So here you can see we are representing different states like 101. That means 1 missionary is there. The boat is present in one side, right? And 0 carnivals. So in the boat you have 1 missionary, or 2 missionary, and boat is present in either left or right side. There is no carnivals. So you have to move in such a manner that with the minimum number of trips or minimum number of crossings, all people can move from the left to right. But the make sure that in no case the missionary, the carnivals is more than the missionary. If carnivals is more than the missionary, they can eat the missionaries. So you should see that how you are going to balance this thing whenever you are formulating this particular problem. So one of the solution I have written here. If you are interested in this particular problem, you can also find the solution and check whether your solution is same as this solution or not. Okay, and the condition is here that find a way to get everyone to the other side without even leaving a group of missionary in one place, outnumbered by the cannibals in that place. Right? You try the problem, try the solution to this particular problem and compare with this particular solution. So another type of problem is called as our water jug problem. So you have two jugs. One jug is having 4 gallon, another jug is having 3 gallon, and you have a pump with unlimited water is coming. Okay, and you can fill the jug. You can also drop the jug. Okay, at any point of time you can do any operation. Okay, neither jug is having any mark of a gallon, 1 gallon or 2 gallon or 3 gallon. Your problem is how can you get exactly 2 gallon of water in a 4 gallon jug. So you have two jugs, okay? One is 4 gallon, another is 3 gallon. Your objective is, this is a 4 gallon jug, this is a 3 gallon jug, right? And your objective is to get exactly 2 gallon of water in a 4 gallon jug, but there is no marking. How you can do it? Okay. So for this you can define, you can find a particular solutions. So I will tell you the formulation part. If you formulate this problem, I can say, as it is a 4 gallon jug, so the amount of water is maybe in between 0 to 4. So if I am taking x as the variable for a 4 gallon jug, the x value may be 0 to 4. Okay. And if I am taking y value as the 3 gallon jug, the values may be 0 to 3. Right. And your goal is to 2y. 2y means 2 gallon of jug, 2 gallon of water in the 4 gallon jug, and it is immaterial, right? In the 3 gallon jug, whatever water is there, it is immaterial. The value may be in between 0 to 3, any value is acceptable. But our objective is to place 2 gallon of water in the first jug, right? So these are the possible steps, possible operations. Like if I tell you to fill 4 gallon jug, so you can say the output is 4, y. We are not telling anything about the 3 gallon jug. We are talking about the 4 gallon jug only. Similarly, fill the 3 gallon jug. Then in the 3 gallon jug, you can see here that 3 gallon jug is filled, but we are silent about the 4 gallon jug. Next, I am saying empty 4 gallon jug on ground. Then 4 gallon jug is having 0, but we are not saying anything about the 3 gallon jug. Similarly, empty 3 gallon jug, so it is 0, and we are not talking about the 4 gallon jug. Similarly, you can take other steps also. So if you find the solution, this is the solutions you are going to get. Okay, if you apply the operations, these are the steps you have to follow. After taking these 6 steps, you can reach to your final step, where you have 2 gallon of water in the 4 gallon jug, and 3 gallon jug is immaterial. Okay, the amount of water in the 3 gallon jug is immaterial. Now the last thing is that you can apply such type of problems or for formulation, not limited to these games. You can apply into route finding problem from source to destination. You can also apply to a very popular problem of computer science, that is traveling salesman problem. You can also apply to VLSI layout, how to minimize the things in the board, right? Cell layout or channel routing also you can do. Robot navigations also you can formulate that particular problem. Assembly sequencing also you can do. So out of these problems, there are a lot of problems people are working to find the solutions to that particular problem. So you can devise your own problem to find the solution. Like if you see the route finding problem, you can see after exploring a particular city, I am getting 3 different cities, and I am selecting one of the city out of these 3 cities. Again, I am exploring other cities that are connected to that city. Okay, like that I am going to process in order to reach to our destination city, right? So if you want to do this one, if you are searching for the solutions, you have to go for the 5 components. You have to define the state. It may be initial state, it may be the final state in the state space, and you have to define the nodes. Okay, which you have to decide which one is the parent and what are the neighbor nodes that are connected to the parent nodes. and in what criteria or in what operator or in what successor functions you can apply to a particular node to reach to the next node. Then the number of nodes on the path from the root to the node, right? That is the number of nodes, node count you have to do. That is nothing but the depth of the node in order to calculate the cost. And finally, you have to calculate the path cost from the initial state to the final state in order to say that whether a particular route A is better or a route B is better, right? And in this way, you can find a particular solution to a particular problem. So these are the references for this particular talk. You can go through it. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can ask.
If any participant would like to ask any question, you can type it in the chat box or let us know.
Somebody asked about the PPT. Okay, I'll share with Dr. Sridhar sir.
Yeah,
And I
okay.
request Dr. Sridhar sir to share the PPT to the participants.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. If you have any questions, you can write. Yeah.
Yeah, there are no queries in the chat box.
Okay, sir. Okay, I will share this PPT to sir. Then if you have any question, you can write email to me. Okay, my email is typing in the chat box also. If you have any doubt in the later point of time, you can send me your query.
Okay. On behalf of the organizing committee of the Faculty Development Program, I would like to thank you for your valuable time and very informative session about the agents and problem formulation, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you to all the participants for their presence listening.
I request all the participants to join tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So we'll be having session on introduction to machine learning by Akanksha Sharaf. Thank you.